Okay, little 5-year-old student, we're going to do some score analysis now. Let's color! Score analysis might sound fancy or like it's for advanced students, but with little kids and beginners, this can simply mean coloring. It just means looking at the music, noticing patterns or other isolated elements, marking them in some way, using coloring pencils in my case, and then making that music easier to digest once we get to the piano. So, let's notice some stuff together. Now, to do this, with little kids, by little kids I mean under 10s probably, I would recommend doing this sitting on the floor together. I actually have a little table in my room and we use that for games and stuff. It's over the other side of this room so you can't see it. But I prefer to do score analysis sitting on the floor. There's something that just helps students to really get involved with it, feel like we're just playing and coloring together, and also feels less like homework or schoolwork when we're not sitting at a table somehow. It also just gives them more opportunity to get some wiggles out. Some students need to fidget, and you'll find when they sit on the floor they shift their legs this way and that and stretch them out, and that's really useful because then when they're sitting back at the piano they can focus better. So what can we notice and mark with colored pencils? We can have repeating patterns, so the same thing happens, maybe it's a sequence, maybe it's an exact repeat, and we use color to mark that in some way. A lot of the time if it's a long section we'll just put like a half a square bracket at the start and the end in one color, and then do that when it repeats again, or if it's a shorter phrase, maybe we circle it in that color. We can also mark the intervals. I prefer to do this just with simple lines, connecting the dots as it were, as in connecting the note heads. So we draw a line to connect the dots between two notes, and we decide, okay, we're going to do all the seconds orange and all the thirds blue. So I know some teachers have a system where a certain color means a certain interval always. I actually prefer it to fluctuate. I don't want students to really rely on this when they're reading. It's more about the analysis experience than it is about using green equals second to then read the piece. So I prefer to just let them pick up a color and ask them which one that's going to be. Okay, we've got green. Which one's it going to be? Thirds. Okay, great. Let's find all the thirds. On a simpler level, we can use a color for up and a color for down with students who are having trouble with directionality. This happens a lot with students where the note stem flips. So like you have a B in the treble clef and then a C, or a B and then an A, let's say, and the stem flips over. And so they're having trouble seeing that it's going down, even though the stem has then flipped and is going up. So joining up the dots again in this way, but just focusing on up, down, and same can be really useful for that. We can also mark notes. I don't do this a lot, but I do it in particular with some of my students who are neurodivergent, especially students who have Down syndrome. Often we use color as a way to decode the music, note by note. And in that case, we do stick to certain colors. So like C is always red, D is always orange. We use the colors that go along with the boom whackers or the desk bells that you can get just to keep things consistent. And finally, not really finally, but finally for my list here, you can color the chords. For this, I love to use primary colors. So let's say the tonic is red and the dominant is yellow and the subdominant is blue, something like that. And then we can use other colors for the different chords that come up and they feel like it makes sense in terms of the color theory. Maybe that's just me being a bit of a design nerd, but for me, that's the funnest way to do it. Okay, that's enough. Just pick out one of those things to decode with your student. Do a little bit of score analysis. It does not have to take a long time. Just sitting on the floor for 1 or 2 minutes, coloring in a few things, and then get back to the piano and play.